Let us stand and face the east. Hallelujah.
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 Barakata Hawa.
Barakata Hawa.
Bahashem.
Bahashem.
Hamashiach.
Hamashiach.
Yahusha.
Yahusha.
Laratan Lanu. Wayom.
Wayom.
Hakadash.
Hakadash.
Borak.
Borak.
Yisrael.
Israel.
Toda.
Toda.
Amen.
Amen.
Shema. Hear, O Israel, Yahweh, your power is one power. Hallelujah.
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 Psalm 83 in the English. Psalm 81 in the English.
The book of Psalm 81. Sing aloud unto the Most High our strength. Make a joyful noise unto the Most High of Yahweh. Take a psalm and bring thither the timbrel, the pleasant harp with the psaltery. Blow up the trumpet in the new moon, and the time appointed on our solemn feast days. For this was a statute for Israel, and the law of the Most High of Yahweh. This he ordained in Joseph for a testimony when he went out through the land of Egypt, where I heard a language that I understood not. I removed his shoulder from the burden. His hands were delivered from the pot. Thou callest in trouble, and I delivered thee. I answered thee in the secret place of thunder. I proved thee at the waters of Meribah Salah. Hear, O Israel, O my people, and I will testify unto thee. O Israel, if thou wilt hearken unto me, there shall no strange God be in thee, neither shalt thou worship any strange God. I am the Most High thy power, which brought thee out of the land of Egypt. Open thy mouth wide, and I will fill it. But my people will not hearken to my voice, and Israel will none of me. So I gave them up unto their own heart lusts, and they walk in their own counsel. O that my people had hearkened unto me, and Israel had walked in my ways, I should soon have subdued their enemies, and turned my hand against their adversaries. The haters of the Most High should have submitted themselves unto him, but their time should have endured forever. He should have fed them also with the filth with the finest of the wheat, and with honey out of the rock should I have satisfied thee. Habanawa Yahweh ba Hashem Mashiach Yahushai, to what at the man Amen.
Amen. Hallelujah.
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 All praises and honor unto the Most High by Hashem Yahushai for giving us a new month in the year of our own calendar. We thank you for blessing us with some more days upon this earth. As long as we still breathing, we give you thanks, we give you glory. For we are still alive. Many people have not seen that day. Neither can they be here to praise you, for you say in the scripture, the dead praise not. But as for us, you give us another opportunity to praise thy great and glorious and fearful name. And ever grateful for that chance. We pray that you use us in this life, that we may continue to do thy work and bring Yahweh back home as you have called us to do, and that we put our minds and our heart and our hands to good use in building the kingdom that you have called us to build. Blessed be your name forever. Let this service be acceptable in thy sight. Remove far from us iniquity and sin, and let everything we say may be inspired by your Holy Spirit. We ask and pray by Hashem Yahushai, Tawad Tamyan, Amen.
Amen.
Ashaba, you may be seated. Ashar Kadash. Ashar Kadash. We have to be happy to be here. This is another month. The Most High have granted us to be alive. Okay, so if we are alive, we need to thank the Most High for that opportunity. So remember to share the link, share the live. Let the people see it. All right, so our lesson is some facts about the new moon. Okay. Let's try to share that thing. Right, some facts about the new moon. So new moon celebration. So we thank the Most High, benevolent Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, has given us the privilege to be called sons and daughters of the Most High, of the great King. May He continue to bless you and add to your days. That while we're still here, that we can do great things with the gift of life, and that He may be proud of sending us down here. For you are chosen for a reason. Okay, so now we're going to talk about the new moon. So let me start by asking a question. Maybe the kids or somebody. Why do we call it new moon? Brother Yadan, why do we call it new moon? It's a what? I can't hear you. You gotta speak up. It's a new form of the moon. Okay. Not bad. Okay, it's a new form of the moon, right? So, but also remember, the new moon also marked a new month. Okay, basically in old times, the moon was created to tell us time. Okay, let's get Genesis right quick. Genesis 1. Let's start in 26. Let's start in 14. Genesis 1 and 14.
The book of Genesis, chapter 1, verse 14.
Mm-hmm.
And the Most High said, let there be light in the firmament of the heaven to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs and for seasons and for days and years.
Mm-hmm.
And let them be for light in the firmament of the heaven to give light upon the earth. And it was so.
So the Most High put light in the firmament. What is the firmament? Who knows what is the firmament? When we talk about firmament, what is it?
Can you say that again, please?
Firmament.
No, the much.
That's Genesis.
Genesis 1, verse 14 and
So the
15.
Most High say He put lights in the firmament. What is the firmament?
Oh,
What is it?
his people.
No. Okay, the firmament is the sky. Okay, so when the hole you're looking up there is called firmament.
Void space.
Okay, that's where the stars are, the moon and the sun. This is called firmament. So the Most High put lights in the firmament for two reasons. What are the two reasons? To see and what else? I mean, to see in what sense?
Just light. You have to be able
To give,
see nothing.
okay, to give light and what else?
Plants, bro.
Yeah.
Tell time.
Yes, to tell time. The main reasons is to tell time. Now they do help with the plants and the tides and agriculture, but the main reasons they are created is to give light and to tell time. So there's no calendar without the sun and the moon and the stars. So it's a complex calculation and knowing how months work and how the sun goes. Okay, so now we need to understand how the Hebrew calendar work. And it says, so now we got the moon and the sun that tell time. So in ancient Israel, this is what we got. So I'm gonna go over a crash course on the calendar, a Hebrew calendar, how it operates. Okay, so bear with me. Get me First King right quick. So take good notes. So I'm teaching you about the Hebrew calendar, how it operates. So you have a good idea. So get me First King 4, verse 7. We're gonna show you, how the moon plays its role, and how everything works in the Hebrew calendar. First Kings 4, verse 7. First Kings 4 and 7. So the first thing we're gonna go, how many months we had in the Hebrew calendar? So that's the first question you need to ask yourself. How many months we have? So let's get to it. First Kings 4 and 7. No.
The book of 1 Kings, chapter 4, verse 7.
Let's see how many. Read.
And Solomon had 12 officers over all Israel, which provided victuals for the king and his household. Each man his month and the year made provision.
Read it again, now this time slowly, because we might miss it. All right? So pay attention. So when someone asks you how many months we had in the Hebrew calendar, that you like, okay, that's how it works. Then after that, once we understand the calendar, we're going to proceed with the moon and its function. How did we know when the new moon began and all this good stuff, okay? Read that again, slowly this time.
The book of 1 Kings, chapter 4, verse 7.
Read.
And Solomon had 12 officers over all Israel, which provided victuals for the king and his household.
So Solomon had 12 officers. Their job was to provide food and all, clothes, take care of the household of Solomon. 12 officers, read. That was 1 Kings 4 and 7. Read.
Which provided victuals for the king and his household.
Mm-hmm.
Each man his month.
Each man his month. Read.
And a year made provision.
So that tells us how many months we had. We had 12 months. 12 months in a year in the Hebrew calendar. Because Solomon had 12 officers, each man his month in a year. So that tells you the month we had 12 months. So easy peasy. Did everybody see that? Okay, so come. All right, so now.
So Esau right about that, the 12 months.
Well, let me tell you, Esau actually took the Hebrew calendar because the Greek calendar, the Roman calendar, they had 10 months. You understand? They had nine days a week. Right. So it's after they start converting to Christianity, they're like, oh, we should probably go to the Hebrew calendar, the 7-day base calendar. In fact, they're gonna try to give Julius and all these guys the credit, but it's a lie.
Yeah.
What you got?
The Babylonian Empire, they had a calendar that was strikingly similar to the Hebrew calendar.
Right.
almost the same.
Right.
The names were different. We had to change some of the months that we had,
Right.
but it was almost the same. 12
Right.
months.
So how many days in a week did the Hebrew calendar have? Now let's get that. Exodus 20 verse 8.
The book of Exodus, chapter 20, verse 8.
Mm-hmm.
Exodus 20 and verse 8. Says, remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy.
Read.
6 days shalt thou labor and do all thy work.
Read.
But the seventh day is the Sabbath of the Most High thy power, and it thou shalt not do any work, thou, nor thy son, nor thy daughter, thy manservant, nor thy maidservant, nor thy cattle, nor thy stranger that is within thy gate.
So 6 days you got to do all your work. The seventh day is rest. Let's see why. Read verse 11.
Verse 11.
Mhm.
For in 6 days the Most High made heaven and earth, the sea and all in their midst,
Read.
and rested the seventh day. Wherefore the Most High blessed the Sabbath day and hallowed it.
Right. And hallowed. So how many days we had in the Hebrew calendar? In a week? 7 days. So we had 7 days in the Hebrew calendar. So now here's the thing. How many days did we have in a month? Huh? You heard me say that earlier. So we had about 30 days in our calendar. Let's prove that. Get me Deuteronomy 21 and 13.
Deuteronomy, right?
Deuteronomy 21 verse 13. So you all need to understand the Hebrew calendar. If you're a Hebrew, you need to understand. So we had in a week 7 days. We had in a year 12 months. And now for the month, how many days we had? Very interesting. So go ahead. Deuteronomy 21 and 13. Pay attention. Pay attention.
The book of Deuteronomy 21, verse 13.
Mm-hmm.
And she shall put the remnant of her captivity from off her,
Mm-hmm.
and shall remain in thine house, and bewail her father and her mother a full month. And after that thou shalt go into her, and unto her, and be her husband, and she shall be thy wife.
Okay, so that's a situation when the men in Israel would, capture a woman during wartime, beautiful young woman, wanted her for your wife. You gotta let her mourn her family for a full month. So the Bible says it's a full month. You gotta let her mourn. But what does a full month in Hebrew look like? So basically, telling you mourning time in Israel took a full month, right? So when you're mourning, it's a full month in Israel. Okay, so now get me Numbers 20:29 and get me Deuteronomy 34 and 8. So let's see what is a full month in the Hebrew was like. A month of mourning, how many days we had in a month of mourning. So we had to give her a full month to mourn because mourning in Israel was a full month. Okay, so let's see that. Numbers 20 verse 29.
The book of Numbers, chapter 20, verse 29.
Read.
And when all the congregation saw that Aaron was dead, they mourned for Aaron 30 days.
How many days they mourn for Aaron?
30 days.
For 30 days. Okay, so now let's go back. Let's get Moses. Let's get Deuteronomy 34 and 8. So let's see how many days they mourn for Moses. Right?
The book of Deuteronomy 34, verse 8.
Read.
And the children of Israel wept for Moshe and the plain of Moab 30 days.
For how long?
30 days.
For how long, class?
30 days.
Right, so Moses, a full month in Israel was how many days? 30 days. So the morning time is a full month, and a full month is 30 days. So what we just learned today is that the Hebrew calendar had 30 days, 7 days a week, and 12 a month. So now,
34 and 8.
34 and 8. Now something interesting about the calendar. So if you count, 30 days by 12,
That's 260.
Sorry, 34 8.
34 8. Yeah, so now if you count 12, if you multiply 12 by 30 days, you got exactly 360 days in the calendar. That's how it's supposed to be. But something even more interesting in this calendar, which is You know, now when you look at the circle in the sky, it makes sense, right? That everything is 360. You know, but where the calendar get very complex is that when this sun was created, it was created 4 days before the actual things began for men in creation. So the calendar, you have to really calculate it in a way. That's why you got 365 sunlight days, because they like normally it's 364 point half, right? 0.5, but they say it's 365 because the sun was created earlier than when our time began to count. So now, yeah, that's why the calendar sometimes, even if you go with 12 months and 30 days, the calendar still go a little off because the way it is. You need to understand. That's why it takes the stars, the moon, and the sun, and understanding creation to actually put a full calendar in motion.
Right, right. You see Esau, how Esau does it. It kind of gives like some month 31 days and 28 days just to accommodate for like the 365 days.
Right.
But really, we know that all the months we had in Israel was actually 30 days.
Right. But because creation started, again, before creation started, after that we start counting. Remember, the sun and the moon were made when in creation? What day?
Like 4 days after.
The fourth day. You understand? So the fourth day. So literally those days count toward our own existence, which actually would give the sun a revolving motion to 365.
Right.
But now here's the thing. That's why we got intercalation. Intercalation is when they actually have to add on the months to match the moon calendar with the sun revolution. So it's complex. So let's not go too deep on that. You understand? But at least we know how the calendar works. So why are we saying that? Because next year, although the Hebrew calendar have 12 months, what we find in our studies. Now let me show. Before I say that, get me what we call Exodus 12 verse 1. You had something before we go further?
Yeah, I mean, when the Most High said at the beginning, let there be light, that very first light was not the sun.
That was another sun.
So, in other words, that would begin the creation of what we call one day.
Mhm.
But like you say, the sun ended up being created 4 days after.
Right.
So, even though when you count according to the 12 is 360, you have to take into account the days that follow the very first day of creation,
Exactly.
which is 4 days basically.
Because the lights were up there. So now, that's why it's complex today. Not only it's supposed to be so simple, and it says 360 days, 12 months, but because of those, now we have sometime the month not ending up falling in the same time in the same place. But go ahead, read that. That's why this year Passover is gonna carry actually 13 months. Yeah, it's gonna carry 13 months. It's not gonna carry 12 months. In the Hebrew, because I'll show you why. Read that.
Exodus 12 verse 1.
Mm-hmm.
And the Most High spake unto Moshe and Aaron in the land of Egypt, saying, This month shall be unto you the beginning of month.
Right.
It shall be the first month of the year unto you. Speak ye unto all the congregation.
Okay, so the month we came out of Egypt, the Most High says it's gonna be the first month unto us.
Exodus 13
All
and
right,
4.
so get me Genesis,
Genesis?
Exodus.
13 and 4.
Yeah, go ahead, read that.
The book of Exodus 13 verse 4.
Read.
This day came he out in the month Abib.
Of what month?
In the month Abib.
Okay, so read the definition of Abib right quick. So pay attention. So the month we came out of Egypt, the Most High say you're gonna call it Abib, right? Later on, the Jewish call it Aviv, and later on from Aviv it becomes April, or in French Avril, right? Aviv, Avril, April. So that's where we got the word April from. It's from Aviv, which French Avril, which English April. English always messed up everything. So now read that, and let's see the meaning of Abib. Right? Read.
The word Abib.
Uh-huh.
The pre-exilic Name for the first month of the year.
Mhm.
Exodus 13 and 4, Exodus 23 and 15. This is references. Exodus 34 verse 18. After the exile, the name was changed to Nisan.
Right. So read that again. I did from the beginning.
The pre-Exodus name of the
Right in front of it. There's some.
word Abib,
Mhm.
an ear of corn.
It means ear of corn. Okay, so ear of corn. Now that's not the corn that you know. You know that yellow corn. That's the corn of barley. If you guys wanna Google it on Google, put barley, you're gonna see it's like a wheat. It look like wheat, but it's not quite wheat. Okay, so the month we come out of Egypt is the month of barley. Now, not any barley. Is when the barley. Let me show you. Get me Genesis. Let me show you because the barley got different stages. All right. So Exodus 9:31. Pay attention. I mean Exodus 9:30. Exodus, not Genesis.
Exodus 9:31.
Mhm.
The book of Exodus, chapter 9, verse 31. And the flax and the barley was smitten, for the barley was in the ear, and the flax was boiled.
Okay, so it says the flax and the barley was smitten, for the barley was in the ear. So that means the barley was still green. When it's in the ear, the barley is like wheat. When it's ready, it pops open. The little pocket that hold the grain pop open, right? So if it was still in the pocket, that means it was green. It wasn't ripe yet. So now the Hebrew calendar is about the barley. It's about the agriculture. So basically what the Most High is saying, you will know when the year began, when the barley is green in the ears. When the ears are green. When they start, showing those grain and it's green. So now here's the thing. When, by example, what we would do a long time ago, because as I told you, the sun, he has extra days from this 360, give us 365. So when you accumulate all these days over the year, the spring is not gonna be in the same place. Everything changed. If it was only 360 days, it would remain constant. But because there's extra days with the sun revolving, because it was born before the calendar should have been counted, we have to take those into account. So because all these days, when I accumulate, when we keep adding up these days, it gives us extra month, extra days and month. Like this year, what's gonna happen? When we count it, we had a big headache. You can ask the brother. You understand? We had to really talk about this. Because when we count the year, we're like, wait a minute. If we count 12 months, we're gonna end up the new year gonna fall on March 3rd. I think March 1st. Around that, March 1st or 3rd. We're like, wait a minute. According to the Bible, it cannot be. Why it cannot be? Because if you look at the agricultural calendar of Israel, barley always grow late March, early April. It never happened early March, so we're like, that's a problem. Okay? So why the year gonna begin so early in the March? So now our Passover would fall around March 17 or something like that. We're like, okay, that's a problem. So we had to do some digging. So what we realized, the Sanhedrin, when around the time, if they notice the year, because of all these days, then they need to compensate. The year would come really early, like it's coming next year, March 1st. What they would do, they'd be like, okay, if the barley is not out yet, it's not green yet, the month is not there yet. No matter it doesn't matter if the month is March 1st, if it's 12 months. So if the barley is not ready yet, we know it's not the beginning of month because the month of Abib means literally green ears. So if we don't see no green barley out there, the month doesn't begin. So what they would do, they would do what we call intercalation. They would add some days to the month or add a full month to wait for the barley to be out, because the barley literally was the sign that the year began. So basically that's what we realized. We're like, okay, so now we had something to work with. Okay, I think the brother gonna soon announce when Passover after months of headaches and calculations and research. Okay, so we have to realize, oh wait, we have to add a month on it because essentially it's the barley that tell us when the year begins. If the barley is not out, no matter what the year end, we have to keep counting until the barley is here. You understand? So everybody with me? Okay, because the month of April, it's all about the barley. And the barley always start in April, not in March.
And that's why you see on the big on the Zondervan Bible Dictionary, it tells you that the month usually starts between March and early April.
Right, late March, early April.
Because those times are the time that the barley usually do.
Right. So that's what we end up knowing. So now let's get to the moon. How does the moon operate? You understand? Now in Israel we got a lot of confusion, about some people do the moon in full moon, some people do it in dark moon. We do it when the moon first appears. You understand? So now we're gonna put some scriptures, not a lot, because we have a full lesson on that. We have a full lesson. If you guys haven't seen that lesson on YouTube about the new moon, so take your time and watch that video, about the moon. But we're just gonna go briefly on certain things. I'm ready. Just give me 1 second. All right. So get me second address right quick. Second Esdras 6 verse 45.
The book of Second Ezra, chapter 6, verse 45.
Read.
It says, upon the fourth day thou commandest that the sun shall shine, and the moon give her light, and the stars shall be in order.
And things should be in order. Read.
And gavest them a charge to do service unto men.
So in the very beginning, the Most High made these things, they were in order. They did not just start in random phases, right? So what would happen if one night you wake up and you see it's midnight and the sun is in the middle of the sky? That'd be out of order, right? You'd think this is revelation. Right? You think this is the last days. Right? So now, but how do we know a new day begin when it comes to the sun? What's the position of the sun when a new day begins? Huh? Okay, in the east, but what phase is it? Is it full blown sun or?
Sun from first light.
You see first light, right? What we call first watch. Then when we see that, we're like, oh, that's a new day. You see, we call it sunrise. We don't wait till the sun is in the middle of the day. Be like, oh, that's a new day. We don't do that, do we? Okay, why we don't do that? Because we understand when it first appeared, that's beginning. You understand? Then why is some of our brothers look at the moon when it's full and be, oh, that's a new moon? How? You understand? How is it a new moon? When it's been going through all these changes, you're looking at it, and you're just waiting patiently for it to get to the full moon to declare it to be a new moon. A new month. You understand? We can't do that. So the Most High, when in the beginning, He put everything in order. That means the moon started in the very first phase What the very first phase of the moon is when it appears. You understand? The first light. That's the very first. Everybody know this. Okay. It's the very first time you see that. That's the first phase. Then it's growing, and just like a baby, right? You know, you can't have a baby at he's 15 years old and be, oh, that's my baby. I mean, we say things like that, but it's not really a baby. You understand? I said full-grown man with beard. You understand? Okay. So just like the moon, everything that begins start from the bottom and go up, right? We all know that. You know, we can't say anything began and it's in the middle of the process. You understand? So now, it's the same thing. Some of our brothers keep it in dark moon. How do you know it's new when you can see it? How do you know, oh, that's a new baby? Where is it? It's in her mother's belly. It's not new. It's not out yet. You understand? So, I mean, these are understanding the Most High give us because it's in front of us. When we come in this room, we turn on the light. That tell us service began, right? When we leave, we turn it off. When the sun rise, that's the beginning. When it sets, we say that's the end. The moon as well. When it first shows the first light, we know that's the beginning. When we don't see it no more, we know that's the end of it. You know, just like when we born, first come out, baby, we grow. When we old, everybody know, hey, you dying, man. You know, start getting ready. You know, so we all know what beginning and look like, but I still don't understand why certain camps still, you know, the Most High have blinded their eyes, man, to go inside. On that point, what you got?
But also, what was I saying? You were talking about something. You got me forget what I was saying. First, they'll come back.
Second is just 9 and 5. Then after that, we're gonna back up our claim with oh, you have something? What you got?
When you said when the moon rises, we know it's there, and when the moon is gone, we know it's not there. Sometimes when you look up in the sky, the sun and the moon is both there. So is it like the same thing, or is it just like different things?
Right. Even though it's there, it's all about the phases. Yeah. You know, sometimes it happens. Sometimes you'll see them, but you know the sun still have what we call that power over the moon in a sense. Even though you see both of them, you know the moon tell us the month when the month what time we in the month. The sun control the day. First day, second day, give us the light to tell us the day. The moon control the whole month. That tell us when the month begin and when the month end. So even though you see both of them in there, you understand? It's still, you know, they're both still doing their separate functions. That's it, like that. What you got?
Yeah, what I was saying earlier is a lot of those camps when they go to Haiti trying to teach that full moon doctrine, you know, the Levites struggle with them because the Levites they plant according to scriptures,
Right.
according to the moon phases that we know, not according to when you see the light is like right in the middle of the sky. They're like, no, that's not how it is.
Yeah, I mean, if you go to Haiti or any islands where people actually use the moon, not like in America, people don't know phases. Haiti, like literally, we use the moon. You understand? Everyone in Haiti, every elderly, they're gonna tell you the moon begin when you first see it. What's wrong with you? If you ask them that question, that's what they're gonna tell you. What's wrong with you? We all know when you first see the light. Isn't it obvious?
They go fishing according to the moon.
Yeah, they understand the moon. They fish according to they play according to the moon. So if you go to Haiti with that doctrine, full moon, you're gonna have a hard time with Levites. I tell you, you're gonna have a very hard time because they ain't gonna get down. Because they're like, no, we all know when the new moon. Okay. So in a lot of camps go to Haiti, they fell miserably. They start growing and they go down again because just that doctrine, they're not ready to take it. You know, and I got first-hand information on that. All right, second Esdras 9 and 5.
The book of 2nd Esdras, chapter 9, verse 5.
Read.
It says, for like as all that is made in the world hath a beginning and an end, and the end is manifest.
Read that again.
For like all, for like as all that is made in the world hath a beginning and an end, and the end is manifest. Even so, the times also of the highest have planned beginnings and wonders and powerful works and endings and effects and signs.
Right. So the Most High say, for like all that is made in the world has a beginning and an end, and the end is manifest. So meaning how the Most High make everything have a beginning and everything have an end, and they all have that same pattern. You understand? Just like us, we have a beginning, we have an end. We know when the beginning, we like babies. We know when we end. It's obvious.
It's like when you're half of a century, you'll be like, oh, I got a new baby.
Right. You can't be like the moon is full, then, oh, that's a new month. What's wrong with you? Okay. What's wrong with you? So now, get me second Esdras. We still, Ecclesiasticus. That's a verse brothers actually use. Ecclesiasticus 43 and 6 and verse 8. So this is from that verse that derived the full moon doctrine. So let's help them out with it. What you got?
So when you read in Isaiah chapter 60 verse 20, if you look into the Hebrew where it says the sun shall not more go down, or shall no more go down, neither shall thy moon withdraw itself. This word for withdraw is the same as decreasing. Comparing the moon and the sun, saying just like the sun will no longer go down in future times, as a prophecy, the moon also will not decrease.
Right.
So that means the moon does the same thing. It phases out, it starts, and then grow, and then decrease.
Right. They do the same
That
movement.
explains exactly how it is right
Right. It's the same movement for the moon and the sun. Right? We don't wait for the sun to be on the middle of the day in that phase when it's round on top of us. Right on top of us in the middle, we don't say that's a new day, do we? No one do that. But for the moon, you're just gonna be like, oh, that's a new month. Read that. Shalom.
The book of Ecclesiasticus, chapter 43, and verse 6. It says, he made the moon also to serve in her season for her declarations of times.
For what?
For a declarations of times.
So the moon is here to tell us time. Read. Pay attention. That's where they're going to get you. We in second Esdras.
We on
Ecclesiasticus 43 and 6. That's where they get you. All right, read.
Ecclesiasticus 43 and verse 6.
Read.
He made the moon also to serve in her season for a declarations of times and a sign of the world.
And a sign of the world, read.
From the moon is the sign of feast day.
From the moon is a sign of feast. Okay, so the moon is what tells us what time it is. When the feast days are approaching, and that's from there. I know a brother, like he understands the Hebrew got 30 days and 12 months, but he still denied the moon out of the equation. That's wrong too. Okay, so the moon is the sign of feast day. It's what tells us the month. Read.
He made the moon also to serve in her season for a declaration of times and the sign of the world.
The sign of the world.
From
Read.
the moon is the sign of peace.
Read.
A light that decreases in her perfection.
It's a light that decreases in her perfection. So the brothers say, you see?
That's what they get now.
From the full moon, then it decreases. So it starts from the... That's not what it's talking about, my Negro. It's not talking about, you understand, it begins in full moon. It's just saying it's a sign that decreases in perfection, meaning in order. And when it's decreasing in order. Just like if I say the rice in the bucket is decreasing in perfection. Am I indicating where it started? No, I'm just showing how it's decreasing. I'm not telling you that's where the moon started originally. It's just praising the moon, how the moon does its thing, its function. Yeah, all right? So it decreases in perfection. Imperfection, meaning perfectly. Just like if I say, oh, the soldiers are working in perfection. I'm not saying where the soldiers come from. I'm just saying how they're working, how they're marching. That's all I'm saying. Everybody with me?
Add something to it.
All right, what you got?
If we were to take that foolish analogy that they give, why don't we say the sun decreases in perfection too?
Right.
That means the sun, when it's full bright, we're like, oh, that's a new day, and it's right there in the middle of the sky.
Right. So let's put the sun in the stead of the moon and say the sun decreases in perfection.
Right?
So that means all of a sudden now a new day begin in the middle when the sun is in the middle at midday.
It's fully bright.
Right. It's fully bright. How many of you would accept a new day begin when the sun is in the middle of the sky? You would accept? You would not accept because I make a statement. I say the sun decreased perfectly in order. That means all of a sudden now the day begin when the sun is in the middle of the sky. Very fishy. You understand? The moon cannot begin when it's in the middle of the sky. The month cannot begin when you see a full moon out there.
I got something.
Why? Because I've been the whole time. You spent 15 days watching it grow till it reach full moon. Then you're like, it's new. How is it new? How? It's like watching your baby live for 15 years. Then when it's 15 years old, you're like, that's a new baby. He's new, brand new. Give him milk. You understand? Come on, man. You must be out of your wits.
I got one person.
You understand? No, the Bible is just saying how the function of the moon, how beautifully it operates. It has nothing to do with where it begins here. You understand? Let's finish the verse in Ecclesiasticus.
Oh, I was gonna back a word. You just saying with a verse.
Read it. What you got?
It says, "The sun also ariseth, and the sun."
What verse we at?
We're on Ecclesiastes 1 verse 5.
Mm-hmm.
It says, "The sun also ariseth, and the sun goeth down, and hasteth to his place where he arose."
Right?
The same thing like the moon. The moon arise, and then he go down again.
Same thing.
Same thing.
The same process, my friend. You cannot wait till the moon, the whole time been going up, you're watching it, looking at it in the eyes, and wait till it's full moon, say it's new. What? Actually, get the definition of new for me. Somebody, please help me.
I looked at it.
Help.
The definition of new, I mean Kodesh. Oh, that's for the new one.
No, I want the English definition of new. Okay, what does that mean, new? Now, I want the dictionary. Put your hand down. You ain't no dictionary. All right. So let's see what the very definition of new means. Because it seems like new become a new thing.
It says
Right?
new.
New.
Not existing before.
What?
Not existing before.
Read that again.
New. It's not existing before.
New means something that did not exist before. What's wrong with you? So you saying the moon have been going through all these phases, you never saw it. You just deny its existence.
You close your eyes.
It's when you see the whole, when it's full, you're like, it's new. Like, come on, man. Look, man, let me tell you one thing. I left Christianity for a reason. Because of ignorance. Ain't nobody gonna get me back in ignorance. You understand? I left Christianity for a reason, man. This ain't no church no more. You gotta check what your leaders are preaching you, man. Mm-hmm. Can't just go whatever he's saying, become. Check yourself before you wreck yourself.
Yeah,
You understand?
some people, they just go with whatever, they feel faces. They just go with whatever. They're not checking up the scriptures and see, okay, does it say that really?
Right.
They just go with it. They call them followers.
Man, look, man. These brothers, man, on top of that, they threaten you, bro. Say, if you don't accept full moon, you gonna die. Repent or die, brother. Look.
So long, man.
They make this sheep so scared, man. They just gotta worship.
I've seen those videos. You all cannot die.
Right? Repent or die. If you
got-
don't accept my philosophy or foolishness.
But listen, they gotta make it persuasive.
It's like
It gotta be convincing.
It's like they are God, they have control over your life.
telling you, bro. I'm telling you. Bigots. The bigots. Alright, hold on. I'm gonna pull the Mishnah right quick. Now the Mishnah, if you're interested to know what it is, let me see if I find the app. Let me see if I find my documents. Give me 1 second here. All right, so I'm gonna pull Mishnah on Google right quick. All right, so the Mishnah, what is the Mishnah? The Mishnah was written during the time of the Babylonian period. Now remember, during that time we had so many school of thoughts, just like today. We had different camps. Back then there were different school of thoughts. Now be mindful, the Mishnah was the interpretation of how they interpret the laws from different school and thoughts, right? Just like I would say, GYC got the way they interpret the laws, and other camps have their own ways, and they put those books together. Very useful tools, but at the same time, sometimes the way they interpret those things are not correct. So I'm going in the Mishnah not to get what they think of the law, and be mindful, this is where Mashiach had a big problem with the Pharisees. The Pharisees had their own school, the Sadducees. But they get to a point where they interpret the law so vaguely, or they had too much doctrine, they left the law altogether, and they were teaching doctrine of men. Where if you don't wash your hands, you ain't going to heaven. You understand? So, but I'm not going in the Mishnah to get the interpretation of the law. I'm going there to see the historical, because they talk about the history of Israel and how we used to do things in those days. So this is the only reason. Now, if you want to go look at how they think about the law, just be mindful. Because certain things are way off. Certain things are good. But certain things they did way too much, okay, which wasn't even required in the law as well. So let me pull Mishnah right quick.
How do you spell that?
Mishnah is Mishnah. Mishnah. Okay, so let me see if I can pull it right here. Okay, so the first one you're gonna see says Sepharia. So Mishnah Sepharia, it's historical books. Okay, so when you get there, let me wait for it, and you can search for the moon. Hold on, give me 1 second. Hopefully this is quick. Alright, let me see if I should be screen to search it. Holidays, Purim, new moon. Where is new moon? Give me 1 second. I want to read it straight out of it. Mhm. Hold on. Hold on. Okay, so Mishnah under where it says Rosh Hashanah 2 and 8. Okay, so So there's it. Read that. So we in let me see. Hold on. I just lost it again. All right. Yes. Okay. All right. Read that. So that's in the Mishnah. Okay. We're gonna read what used to happen in Jerusalem during the new moon and how did they identify the new moon. Okay. Read that.
If the members of the great Sanhedrin in Jerusalem are not familiar with that one who saw the new moon, that he is a valid witness, the members of his local court of 23 sent another with him to testify about him. The Mishnah adds, initially, the court would accept testimony to determine the start of the month from any person.
So basically, when the new moon begins and someone say he saw the moon, then you have to go in front of the Sanhedrin and say, look, I saw the moon. So think about it, the moon was full during the new month. Everyone see it. Isn't it obvious? So for us to know it was new moon, what would happen? So the person that first see it, the first little light, you have to go and tell, look, I saw the new moon. So you have to go testify and be like, where did I saw? Around what time did I see it? Okay, it's a new moon. Think about it. Again, if it was full moon, everybody would see it, right?
And once again, the Sanhedrin were the judge in Israel, so you
Right.
have to go and testify in front of the Sanhedrin.
And say, look, I saw the moon. Okay, read.
Initially, the court would accept the testimony to determine the start of the month from any person. As that's the Mishnah that claimed that.
Right.
As all are presumed to be qualified witnesses, absent any disqualifying factors.
So now that's the history. That's not opinion. That's how we used to do it back then. So if when the new moon begin for us to, blow the trumpet and tell them tomorrow is new moon celebration, we have to have a witness seen it and come to tell us. Then the priest can say, it's not like back then, like today, where we can look and be like, oh, the moon. We have great tools to look at the moon. It wasn't like that. So someone had to see the moon and come tell the priest that I see the moon, the Sanhedrin, and the Sanhedrin tell the priest let the people know it's a new moon, it's a new month. Read. It's not confusing. No, they don't celebrate it the same day. Like, let's say they see it tonight, the night after they celebrate.
Yeah. However, when the Bohitution, a sect whose members had their own opinion with regard to the establishment of the festival, corrupted the process by sending false witnesses to testify about the new moon, the sage instituted that they would accept this testimony only from those men familiar to the Sanhedrin as valid witnesses.
Right, there's a group though, they would send false witnesses and say that I saw the moon, they didn't really see the moon. It's to mess up the process that they established. There's always a Negro trying to mess something up. Read on.
Initially, after the court sanctified the new month, they would light torches on the mountain tops from one peak to another to signal to the community in Babylonia that the month had been sanctified. After the Samaritan, which we call the Kutim, corrupted and ruined this method by lighting torches at the wrong time to confuse the Jews, the sage instituted that messengers should go out to the diaspora and inform them of the start of the month.
Right. So now what we used to do a long time ago, when the new moon come, would light up on all the mountains torches that the people see. Oh, that's a new moon. But the Samaritan had other plans. They would purposely light up torches on the mountains.
That's how it's like on the water.
So the people think it's a new moon when it's not a new moon. Negroes. Understand? Read on if
The-
we got more.
The Mishnah asks, how would they light the torches during that early period? They would bring items that burn well.
I think that's it. On.
That's it.
Let me see if I get some more. I had. Let me see. Yeah. Start here. There are false witness. Right. Where it says there are false witness. Pay attention.
Rabbi Dosa ben Hokinas disagreed and said they are false witnesses. How can witnesses testify that a woman gave birth and the next day her belly is between her teeth?
Mm-hmm.
She is obviously still pregnant. If the new moon was already visible at its anticipated time, how could it not be seen a day later?
Right. So there were false witnesses that tell them the moon, it's a new moon. But a day later, the moon is still not out. So that's why he says just like a pregnant woman. How can you say the baby's out when the baby's not yet out yet? A day later, and the baby's still. You see what I'm trying to say? Also proving that they also understood the new moon happened when the light shows up. So the rabbi was saying he has to be a false witness. How you say I saw the new moon, but next day we're looking for the moon and there was no moon in the sky. We didn't see no light. Showing what? In ancient time, the new moon was celebrated when they first saw the first light. They have to see the first light.
The first slides that come up, there ain't no such thing as full moon, man.
You understand? So this is evidence we got in the Mishnah showing that, yes, they understood the moon started. The new month started when the light is out. So that's why he said they were false. Read that again, once last time.
It says, they are false witnesses. How can witnesses testify that a woman gave birth and the next day her belly is between her teeth?
So how can someone say a woman gave birth, yet the next day I see the woman, her belly is still up there? You understand? She's still pregnant. You lying. Read.
She is obviously still pregnant.
Right.
If the new moon was already visible at its anticipated time, how would it not be seen a day later?
Huh? So if you said you saw it yesterday, a day later we still don't see the moon, then you lying. You didn't really see the moon. Read.
Yehoshua said to him, I see the logic of your statement. The new moon must be established a day later.
Right. After a day later, after someone say, I see the new moon the next day, we need to wait till we actually see it for it to happen. So again, the proof is there. You understand? Again, we don't go in the book of Mishnah to get doctrine or how they thought. We show you how it was happening, the historical events behind the new moon. So yes, we got plenty of evidence showing the new moon begins when the first light appears. So don't get fooled and bamboozled by these brothers. You understand? Who have not done their due diligence in such a manner. All right, so we're gonna take probably one last verse. I think we touch enough because we wanna hear him instead our sins and Right. So let me see what I got here. If we covered most of the stuff, get me some 104. No, Psalm 81. Psalm 81 verse 3.
The book of Psalm 81, verse 3. Blow up the trumpet in the new moon, and the time appointed on our solemn feast day.
Right.
For this was a statute for Israel and the law of the Most High of Yahweh.
Right. So blow up the trumpet in the new moon. Also, yes, during the new moon we blow the trumpet. Now another thing we had in Second Esdras, Ecclesiasticus is that 43 and 6. It says the moon is a sign of feast days. Is a sign of feast days. Is a sign of feast days. What feast days are talking about? Feasts days. No, the new moon is not one of the major feast days. Actually, it's not even a feast day. The new moon is, we only gather to dinner. It wasn't so major in Israel. We blow up the trumpet, we happy in the new month. But the feast days are found in Leviticus, the 23rd chapter. Yeah, and it doesn't mention new moon in it. You can look at Leviticus, the 23rd chapter. It gives you, that's the table of feast days. But it says the moon is a sign of feast days.
Mark.
To mark the feast days.
Right.
And one thing you got to notice about the feast days, they always, most of the time, they happen between 10 and 15. So the 15, remember, the Hebrew calendar carries 30 days. 15 of that month give us what? It gives us what? Half of the month, right? Everybody with me? 15 of that month give us half of the month, right? Okay. Everybody's gone. All right. 15 of that month give us half of the month. So that being said, that's why you see the moon is always during tabernacle, Passover, all the feast days, most of the feast days, the moon, except for the memorial, because it's fall on the new moon.
But it's close to the full moon because
It
usually falls between when it's about to be the full moon.
Right. So most of the feasts happen when there's light out there. You see, but if you take the full moon as the beginning of your month, you count 15 days after the full moon, then all your feast days fall in darkness. You understand? So the moon no longer is a sign of feast days for you. Because, like when we see the moon full, we know that's a feast day happening. It's a time of party. Because I know a lot of people that are, born and raised in America, the moon doesn't matter too much. You got light. But when you come from Haiti, when you see that full moon, you know it's time to party. Because that's all you have.
Yep.
You understand? And back in the days too, in Israel, we didn't have no light. So why would the Most High give you feast days that fall when it's dark out? How? Understand? The Most High wouldn't give you. That's why most of the feast days fall in the middle of the month. Around the time there's full moon and there's clarity, there's light out there. Okay?
And you see why it makes sense for the calendar, for the month to have 30 days too?
Right.
Because the new moon, the moon carried like 30 days, okay, before it went back to its course and everything. Right. So you see everything fall exactly, they align together.
Right.
The feast day, Passover usually falls on the
14,
full moon,
15,
14, 15.
Full moon.
Understand? So everything was aligned together, man.
That's why it says the moon is a sign of feast day. When we say that full moon out there, we know one of the feast days is on the rise. It's out there. So that's all I got for you. That's all. Now all praise to the Most High for that new moon. Hopefully we learn something, and get yourself ready against the little tricks of Satan. Huh? Amadim Lapat. What do we do? Amadim Lapari Yaroshele, Estered Face Yarosh.
Kan.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
Barakatah Hawa.
Barakati Hawa.
Bahashem.
Bahashem.
Hamashiach.
Hamashiach.
Yahushai.
Yahushai.
Natan
Lanu.
Wayom.
Wayom.
Hakadash.
Hakadosh.
Bashalom.
Bashalom.
Wa.
Hashabbat.
Hashabbat. Bashalom.
Bashalom.
Barak.
Barak.
Yisrael.
Israel.
Todah.
Todah.
Amen.
Amen.
We thank you, Yahweh Hashem Yahushai, for giving us that day in peace. Pray that you continue to bless our people with knowledge, understanding, until the fullness of knowledge come, that we do all things according to your will. Please, O Yahweh, have mercy on our people, have mercy on us, that we may do all things as thou hast commanded. We're praying that you bless this community with which is trying to please you, and let everything that we do may be enhanced toward knowledge, understanding, and wisdom, that to the end we may do what you have asked. We pray and ask all these things by Hashem Yahushai to Amen.
Amen.
There is no power beside Yahweh. They even trust idols, we trust in Yah. There is no power beside Yahweh. Oh Israel, tremble before his name. There is no power beside Yah. He is the King, he is the King above all kings. There is no power beside Yahweh. Oh Israel, rejoice in his grace. He is our King, our Redeemer, our Savior, your name be praised. Oh yeah, he is our King, our Redeemer, our Savior, your name be praised. There is no power beside Jah. He is the King, he is the King above all. There is no power. Oh Israel, tremble before his grace. There is no power beside. Oh, heathen trust, the heathen trust idols. There is no power. Oh Israel, rejoice in his. He is our King, he is our King, our Redeemer. Your name be praised. Oh yeah, he is our King, our Redeemer, our Savior. Your name. Oh, he is our King, he is our King, our Redeemer, our Savior. Your name be praised. Oh yeah, he is our King. Oh, our Savior, your name be praised. He's our King, he's our King, our Redeemer, our Savior. Your name be praised. Oh yeah, our Redeemer, our Savior. Your name be Israel. Israel, praise the Most. Too high for me. Israel, praise the Most High. Oh, let Israel praise be in your mouth, and a two-edged sword in your hand. Oh, Israel, praise the Most High. Oh, let Israel praise be in your mouth, two-edged sword in your. Oh, let Israel praise be in your mouth. 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 Two-edged sword in your hand. Let Israel be in your mouth. Two-edged sword. Oh, Israel, don't be afraid. What you say? Oh yeah, I am ready to go back home. I wanna be my home again. Oh yeah, I am ready. Hey, let it go, let it go. Oh yeah, I am ready. Oh, I wanna be my home again. Oh yeah, I am ready. Hallelujah! Come Yasharala! Come Yasharala! That's right. All praise to the Most High. Thank you for coming out. We're enjoying the Most High by Shem Yahushai. Come.